And what Pakistan always does is put out this narrative in the West that, oh, there could be a nuclear war. And then the West comes running and tells India, step back, right? Now, the Prime Minister in his speech said nuclear blackmail is not acceptable. So clearly, India has drawn a red line, but the world doesn't seem to understand that.
I have a different take. Yes, you're absolutely right. In fact, I was going to talk about the role of the international press. International press, as usual, CNN correspondent, I think it was Marika or somebody, who was showing those broken buildings and the mosques and saying how people are upset. She doesn't know that she was, speaking from the fount of terror. She was speaking from Muridke, that is led headquarters. And then there is another correspondent, I recall, maybe from the CNN itself, who says that his source tells him that India approached for the ceasefire. So yes, there is a kind of a bias. And as you know, Barkha, that the BBC said that there were some gunmen or militants who sort of massacred this. So yes, there is a press. For that, I have another take also, that we need to engage the international press in a much better fashion, And in fact, if you see the press conferences, there was just one question from the international press, the Reuters, and there were no questions from any international press at all. So that's a different thing. But coming back to this nuclear blackmail, and my both distinguished co-panelists will know what I'm alluding to. I think it was the bombing and proper bombing of Sargodha and the Noor Khan bases, I think, which got them running. And we immediately saw the pictures on the screen, TV screens of American plane landing for detection of radiation and things like that. So look at it; it's so clear. And another point, if you take the comments of the airfare war, aviation war analysts all over the world, they have clearly said, and Maxar, which you talked about, the technology, has given detailed satellite pictures of all the damage which has been caused. And yet the international press kept on saying that it was the nuclear fallout danger, which was, yes, nuclear fallout danger must be on this side, as you said, decapitating their nuclear command. That was perhaps the main reason.
So I want to play out two statements. When you've spoken about the bombing of the Sargodha and the Noor Khan bases, which we know are close to nuclear facilities in Pakistan, nuclear storage facilities. First, I will play out what the Air Operations Chief, Air Marshal Bharti, said when he was asked on Kirana Hills. Let me play this statement out for you.
Thank you, sir. Snesh Philip here from the print. So the social media, the Twitter is abuzz with the fact that we hit a site called Kirana Hills, which is supposed to be the nuclear storage facility. And there is a lot of rumors about Sargodha. There are foreign analysts who've mentioned that the Sargodha attack led to certain leaks. Is there a confirmation that we actually hit Kirana Hills, or we were careful of not to do any such thing? Thank you.
Thank you for telling us that Kirana Hill houses some nuclear installation. We did not know about it. Okay. And we've not hit Kirana Hills, whatever is there. Okay. I did not brief in my briefing yesterday. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So he very cryptically and comic, with a sense of humor, shut down that question. I loved it, actually. He was so funny, Air Marshal Bharti. But Trump, now this is his fifth statement, I've been counting, now does an interview on Air Force One with Sean Hannity and once again references nuclear war. Take a look.
Potential nuclear war, and two countries, they have very good leaders, people I know very well, and it was a very important process. We got involved with India and Pakistan.
You got involved early. Can you give us a little insight what happened behind the scenes? How were you able?
Well, I didn't like what was happening, and you hear, they're two very strongly nuclear countries, very, very powerful amount of nuclear too, serious stuff. And if that ever started, boy, that's the beginning of something that could be really bad. Even a minimal, you could have millions of people killed. and with one shot, two shots. And I just thought it was something we could get involved in. And I did a good job. Marco did a good job, and JD did a good job. We sort of were a team, and we, I think, convinced them to let's have peace and let's go and make trade deals. If we can make trade deals, we like that much better than nuclear weapons.
Okay. Ambassador Sinha, the point is that this, the Air Force shut down this question on Kirana Hills, but Trump keeps talking about this, oh, it would have become a nuclear war. There was a real danger. I stepped in, Rubio said. And the Prime Minister says the nuclear blackmail is unacceptable, right? Now, in between these two positions, we've got to navigate our way with the United States.
Well, yes. Donald Trump had promised that he would bring about a ceasefire in Gaza and in Ukraine within days of taking over. Now it's months and he's not succeeded. So here is one war in which he thinks he has brought about a ceasefire. And the more dangerous the war he projects, a possibility of a nuclear war, the greater his success. So I don't think we should really deny him this little pleasure of saying that he's prevented a nuclear war. Actually, for U.S. policy, I would go back to the statement made by his own vice president just 2 days before this ceasefire. That was on Thursday, which is on the 8th. And J.D. Vance has said that this is fundamentally none of our business. And that is what is reflected in the U.S. policy, because when the war started, the U.S. did not call up and say ceasefire. The U.S. did not take the initiative. The U.S. took the initiative only when the Pakistanis called them on the 10th, asking for intervention to stop India from attacking any further. And then they called us, and we told them to call the DGMO and asked them to call back. Now, that to us is what is the expression of American policy. But as General Sharma said, if Donald Trump wants to take credit for it, let him take credit. After all, let's face it, Pakistan does listen to America to a certain extent, not always. So if America puts a certain amount of pressure upon Pakistan, that should be welcome from our point of view. And we should really now go back to what you said, double down on our economic growth and our trade talks. We've got the agreement with the UK. We should look for an agreement with the US. So I don't think we should really go around nitpicking with Donald Trump, whether he stopped a nuclear war or not. The fact is that our attacks on these bases showed that we have called Pakistan's nuclear bluff, that Pakistan cannot hold us to a nuclear blackmail ransom. And the very fact that the moment these attacks took place, Pakistan did not retaliate any further. They called up Washington. So that is to us is the important takeaway from this, that we are capable of taking on Pakistan despite Pakistan's nuclear arsenal, and we can protect ourselves from any possible, even a nuclear retaliation by Pakistan.
Now, General Sharma, one thing we've heard the Prime Minister message in the last 2 days has been that if Pakistan does this again, there will be kinetic action. I'm summarizing him, but that was the big takeaway for me. If they do this, we will remove the pause button. We will simply, remove ourselves from the pause holding position that we're in. So what phase of conflict management are we entering with Pakistan?
Barka, first allow me to battle through this nuclear business.
Correct.
Now, we have one of these long-standing CBMs that we have with Pakistan, other than the IWT, is that on 1st of every year, we exchange the nuclear data with each other. And it's been through even Kargil time, we've been exchanging that. Post Kargil, Prakram. This has been standing CBM in which all our sites were exchanged to each other. It ostensibly implies that they should not be targeted. So was Kirana Hills part and parcel of that list that Pakistan gives to us first of every year? That needs to be ascertained. And I'm at grave doubts in this one. Second point I want to raise is that the Americans have been involved in about 15, 20 years ago in establishing some kind of permissive action links, the PL, the communication structure for nuclear weapons. It's a kind of control that they apply. And so they may be knowing a little more on where the Pakistanis are keeping their nuclear weapons and or nuclear warheads, which Anybody else may not know. Third point is Air Marshal Aurangzeb in one of his briefings said that they were attempting to spoof the missiles that we were sending across there. So Noor Khan and Sargodha is a childhood name that we know, like Muridki and Bhavalpur and Raiwind. So we know Sargodha is the most important base. It would be hit. Any base being hit, Sargodha will be hit. But if you're trying to spoof our missiles in a way, and that's what he's saying, Air Marshal Aurangzeb, saying that we were wanting to spoil the place where the missiles are landing, so that they go into what he said, no man's land. His words, not me. So it crosses that air base and goes and hits somewhere else. Which
Can you explain this? Can you explain this? What do you mean by spoof? Because a lot of people will not understand who are not from the military.
So see, we rely on GPS, which is an American system. Pakistanis rely on Beidou, which is the 44 satellite constellation of the Chinese. So Pakistan has enmeshed itself with the Chinese systems. So when a missile is sent, you try to interfere with this computer systems when it's going up or coming down, or as a cruise missile, so that it doesn't land up at the circular error of probability, which could be 30 meters. So you try and spoil it, and then it goes across away from the base and hits somebody else. So when Air Marshal Aurangzeb said that they were trying to do so that it goes to no man's land. When in this case, no man's land is also Pakistani land. It is not that it is going to some other country. But they could have themselves spoofed it in a manner that it goes and hits the Kirana Hills. I think we were not informed about Kirana Hills, and if it hit Kirana Hills, and if it had nuclear sites, and as Air Marshal Bharti had said, well, it's their problem. Yeah, we don't know about it, and naturally it can hit any site. So I think.
But could that explain the panic in how this? You see, I want to remind all three of you, and General Sharma, I was talking to you. I think all three of you are different points on the ground. That day, it felt like a near war situation. That is the day that missile was intercepted in Haryana. Drones were intercepted over homes in Jammu, a temple complex in Jammu. Shells were falling in border villages. A few hours later, the Pakistan DGMO calls our DGMO. Do you think the timing or the panic in Pakistan was because perhaps as our missiles decimated their air bases, this attempt to spoof Indian missiles coming in made the missile land somewhere at a place, the information on which, for example, Kirana Hills, they hadn't shared with the Indians, and then they panicked. And they said, "Hamara to, nuclear storage hi khatam ho jayega, ya kuch ho jayega," whatever. They went into panic. Does that, I want to ask all three of you this, does that explain the suddenness with which the DGMO of Pakistan calls his counterpart here? Or the Americans? They also obviously reach out to the Americans.
Okay, let me begin, as you said. One point is that when these 11 air bases were hit, so what has happened is Pakistan had relied itself on the air defense system provided to it by the Chinese, the HQ-9s, and there are a large number of them. Only one we hit in Lahore, but there were many of them. And the HQ-9s were not able to hold on to these 9 air bases that were hit on the 9th and 10th, which is starting from Sargodha. And Sargodha, which is that side of Kargil, and right till the south. So the whole area. Now they understood that we have the capability of hitting it, and with a supersonic missile like BrahMos, and they don't have a tod for it. They can't stop. First issue is this, and then second is, and it was all over the country. So there's a psychological game played by these 11 bases that we hit. And the second is that Kirana hits probably the Americans knew a little more than we knew, and they said, one of our nuclear storage sites has been hit. And they could be damaged. Whether it hit us by spoofing or we actually hit it is a separate issue. But the Americans would have reacted to say that, okay, we have helped them establish something like this, and Americans would know the tunnels being built or whatever this way. So I would deem it that the two things combined together, the failure of their air defense systems against our missiles and the hitting of the Kirana Hills, may have all combined together to sort this issue out, and them start crying on the shoulder saying that, okay, our nuclear thing, and you can have a blast on this one. And President Trump picked it up and saying millions. He used the word millions could have died. I mean, there was nothing nuclear being sought about. How would millions die in precise bombing? So I thought that was the issue here, Barka.
Yeah, I think we explained it very well.
About the terror. I'll
Yeah,
talk about the terror thing.
I'll come to that.
Yeah.
Just hold that thought, General Sharma. Just let's get comments on this, because this is a very important conversation, because India has shut down rumors that Kirana Hills was a target. Let's first say that. Air Marshal Bharti said Kirana Hills was not targeted. It was not part of our operation. General Sharma has just explained, Ambassador Sinha, that yet Pakistan could be trying to spoof our missiles, and the missile could have therefore landed somewhere where it was not targeted, right? And that could have been near one of these nuclear storage facilities, which was not on India's target list. And the data of that would not probably have even been transparently shared by Pakistan with India. But that could explain the sudden panic in Pakistan, the outreach to the Americans, the outreach to India. Do you see that that sort of adds up, or do you have another take? Ambassador Sinha and Yashu Azad both. Ambassador?
I don't really know much about this, about the Kirana Hills. General Sharma has pointed out that on the first day of each year, we do have a tradition of exchanging the addresses, the geographical coordinates of all nuclear installations. Now, obviously, when Kirana Hills was possibly not part of that list, so if we have hit Kirana Hills, then Pakistan cannot claim that you had hit a nuclear site. But if you look at the sequence of events that even the DG ISPR said, now he said that after the 7th of May, when India struck, the night of 6th, 7th May, when India struck first, India offered a ceasefire. But Pakistan said that we will not accept it and we will respond in our own way, which Pakistan did over the next 2-3 days, striking at 26 of our military installations. Now, that happened between the 7th and the 10th. Now, the 10th morning, we had these major strikes on places like the Noor Khan Air Base. That Noor Khan Air Base is the Chaklala Airport, which is the base right next to Rawalpindi, the capital. And thereafter came this report that Pakistan's Nuclear Control Authority, a meeting of that had been called. At the same time, we know that the Pakistanis called up the Americans.
Yeah.
And then later the army chief said that there was no proposal for a meeting of the Nuclear Control Authority. Now, whether that meeting was just to bluff or it wasn't, I don't know. But quite certainly the attack on Chaklala, I would say, would really have disturbed the Pakistani leadership.